Welcome to the Coffee with Closers show, where we interview real investors that are doing real deals in this current market about how they are finding, funding, and flipping the deals. We talk about what they are doing that is working and the things they did that didn't work so that you can save time and money as you become a real investor. Welcome to the Coffee with Closers show. Hey guys, welcome to the Coffee with Closers show. And yes, I've got some exciting stuff to go over today. I got a good friend of mine, Jason Lucchesi, in the house. What's the big 23 in the back? Don't tell me you're a Jordan fan.
That's LeBron. That's LeBron back there. Now,
okay.
I grew up in Northwest Chicago, so yes, I am a Jordan fan. I've got a signed ball by him right over there in my office.
I'm just teasing you, man. Hey, listen, we're going to be digging into a real deal where they made real mistakes and made real wins and they made real money. And that's what this show is all about. That's why we call it Coffee with Closers. We weed out all the gurus and we get right to the real deal and the real people out there. And so, Jason, thanks for being on this show with me, man.
Man, Zack, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be here on Coffee with Closers. This is great, man. I love the show name too. It kind of brings me back to the old SNL days where they were talking about the old coffee talk.
The coffee talk, man, or like the old ABC shows, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes. You see these right here? These are a pair of. Well, anyways, I won't go there.
That's awesome.
Hey, so, people who watch this show, whether it's going to be through our podcast, our YouTube channel, or however they get it, right? They're going to be from all walks. They're going to be people who are new. They're going to be people who are seasoned. And they might go, well, who's Jason? So let's just start there. Let's start with the whole idea of, look, becoming a real estate investor is a crazy idea, right? Like, it's just crazy, right? Like, we're willing to work 80 hours a week so that we don't have to work 40 for someone else. You know what I mean? And I think that's in general with any entrepreneur. But what was it? What was that journey? And I don't want to spend all day on the journey, but what was it, that one thing or the book or I was tired of my job, I had to find something else, or my family was in it, or my uncle was in it? What was the one thing that you went from the old Jason and then you moved into real estate? What was that?
I'll tell you what, man, what really got the flame ignited was probably junior, senior year of high school. My mom purchased a Carlton Sheets course. And I really liked, watching his infomercials and stuff. And it really kind of got me fired up. I'm like, if these people could be doing this, I can too.
Right.
And then when she got the course, my dad got a little bit mad and said, we don't have the money for that. So she had to return it. So I didn't even have a chance to kind of dive into it, but it got the flame started. And when the industry, when the economy kind of collapsed back in November of 2007, I was in the mortgage industry. I don't have a college degree, never went to college, and I needed to do something. So I saw these flipping house shows on TV, and I'm like, man, if these people are doing it, it's got to be easy, right? So I got into it. And it was not easy, not easy at all. I tried picking up as much as I could as far as education and learning. And, I stuck with it. And, I had to make it happen because I just got married. My wife was pregnant, and the only jobs that I was being offered were 100% commission-based positions. So I wasn't about to take one of those. If I was I wanted to bet on myself rather than bet on somebody else's company. And it goes to show too, Zack, I thought I was going to be secure with this company. It was Countrywide Home Loans. I thought I was going to be secure with them. And I had the rug ripped out from underneath me when the mortgage market collapsed. And I thought I was going to be with them for 20, 30 years. And
that was back probably during the era that, man, anybody could get a loan. Anybody, right?
Yeah.
Like, I remember I opened a mortgage company, Landmark Funding, and about that time, and man, I just remember, like, I had so many young kids in there making $1 million. Now, this was out in California, so it's easy to do 7 figures in loans. And I just remember sitting back looking and going, man, is this going to last? Like, can this last? Like, it was just insane. Oh, a landscaper, we just got him approved for $1 million house. I'm like, what? I'm like, how'd that get under underwriting?
We were doing some crazy loans, man. You could get 100% financing with a 580 credit score, which was nuts. And that was pulling cash out.
Right. Oh, yeah, exactly. We used to call it fog a mirror and you can get a loan.
Yeah.
So you went through that era. So you kind of got introduced young, obviously, in high school, which most people don't get introduced at that time. So you came out, but kind of shifted into the mortgage industry.
Yep.
And then obviously the rug got pulled out from underneath that. And then you were sitting there saying what?
I needed to do something because I was going to probably go back into the mortgage industry, but I was going to be micromanaged. And I just decided to just really pull the trigger and go full force into real estate investing. And at that time, I picked wholesaling because I didn't have any money of my own. My credit was in the dumps, so I wasn't going to get a hard money loan. And I didn't really have any relationships yet in the business to start going out asking for private money.
Right.
So wholesaling was the best route for me when I first got started. I dabbled with probates. And then I started really getting serious with short sales. And that's when things really took off for me. I really found my niche, and it was short sales. It clicked. And, I remember I took a course from our mutual friend, Nathan Jurowitz, and Short Sales Riches back in the day.
That book was like that thick.
I know, man. It was. And me not being like, somebody that could sit down and read for a while, I had to make it happen. I listened to all the audios. I went through the book, and I just made it happen. And started going to the courthouse. I started developing relationships with realtors, and I started doing presentations at brokerages, and it just started booming. In a short few months, I had like 150 short sales in my pipeline, and it was cooking. I was just making it happen, started forming a team, and it's just, a great book that I would recommend and encourage people to read is The E-Myth, because it really kind of got me to shift out of being in the business and then working on the business. Yep. And that really helped out a lot from identifying, an employee mindset versus, a true business owner, CEO mindset.
Right. And it also helps you understand the mindset of growth, right?
Exactly.
Like, it really digs into not being stagnant, not being comfortable, but what growth really is. And growth isn't always about make more money, but growth is more about, in his mindset, Michael Gerber, who wrote the book, was about systems, processes, development of team, and then pulling yourself out. And then if you've done it correctly, it will pay you forever. Right. And so yeah, I'm a big fan of that book too. I mean, society, most people get stuck in technician stage, and
they do.
Where they
unfortunately. And, to be honest with you, Zach, I wanted to learn the business. So I did everything myself for probably the first 3 to 6 months, probably close to 6 months. Yeah. And then I was able to put together our own standard operating procedures. And that really helped out with me being able to hire people and scale the business the right way.
Right. So let's look at that timeline. So you got out of the mortgage industry, you jumped into wholesaling. So you did wholesaling, then you found a niche into short sales. And then you did short sales while that market or that season of the period was good. And then you moved into rehabbing, buy and hold. I mean, still wholesaling. What are you doing today?
So it's still, majority of it's still wholesaling. Yeah. I don't really do a whole lot with rehabs unless it just makes really good sense.
Right.
And then we're also focusing on buy and holds for our own portfolio. Mm-hmm. And I mean my own as in like, I'm looking out for our family wise. And also I've got some folks on the team. So we're focusing on some single families and also some commercial assets as well. But yeah, it's mainly a lot of wholesaling. That helps us, get cash.
So let me ask you this then. On average yearly, if we take your yearly average, about how many deals are you doing if you encompass all of them a year?
To be honest with you, we're probably doing a little over 100 deals a year. Nothing like crazy. I know some guys are doing like 20, 30 a month, and that's great. But yeah, we're right around like that.
Yeah.
Between, I'd say 100 to, like, for this year, we'll probably be like around 103, 104.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, man, everybody has different visions. I mean, the guys who want to do 200, 300, 400 deals a year, that's not like, let me build a business and a lifestyle. That's let me build a business.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That's what that is. I mean, I think anybody who watches this that is trying to get in real estate, even 100 deals a year might be intimidating to them. They might be like, oh my gosh, I'm only doing 5 a year or 10 a year, So,
yeah,
you don't have to go out and I tell people this all the time. You don't have to go out and do 100 deals a year to make a good living. Like you don't.
Yeah.
Especially where I live. I mean, we live in the South in northern Alabama, and I tell my members all the time at my RIA, I'm like, look, if you did 4 rehabs a year in our market, that's roughly 80 grand a year. That's double probably what you're making now.
Exactly.
Right? So I say that to say this, like, it's not always about the volume for the new person, and I don't want them to get scared about that. It's just about doing 1 or doing 2 or getting to 10 a year and then moving to 15. I mean, you've been doing this now how long?
Since 08. And I was just going to say, like, we didn't start right out of the gates doing 100 deals a year. I started off, I think my first year we did, 10 to 15 deals. And then it just kind of grew from there. But yeah, man, we didn't come out of the gate doing 100 plus deals.
Right. It's a building stuff.
Yeah.
Right. You got to build into it. And like you said, you got processes now, you got team now. I mean, it takes time for people to get to that. But I think that's great. So you had said, like, hey, look, you're pretty much focused on still wholesaling, but you're acquiring the ones that you want to build cash flow wealth with for your family and, just build up the nest egg, right?
Exactly. Generational wealth.
Right. So let's talk about a deal that you just did. Okay. So what kind of deal was it? Single family, commercial? What was it?
It was a single family property. We found out about this one because the individual was extremely behind on their taxes. They were tax delinquent and they were about to have the home swept out from underneath them. So we were able to do some research and we were able to get in contact with the homeowner, and they needed somebody like us to come in and help them because they had no idea what was basically around the corner waiting for them. And they had no idea. So the thing with people behind on tax delinquents is they just really don't have too much of an idea of what's going on. This person qualified for a payment plan before, and then they got behind again and couldn't qualify again for another payment plan. The county wouldn't extend it. You're normally only going to get 1 payment plan ever, and they've already exceeded that one.
So talk me through that. So you reached out to the homeowner. The homeowner was probably majorly distressed.
Yes.
Like, oh my gosh, like this is what's going on. So in that, and I'm bringing this up because was that more of like a soft negotiation? Because I'm trying to think, like, a lot of times when we're negotiating with a seller who's not very motivated, right? Like we have to really demonstrate like why the benefit would be for them to sell versus I'm assuming like a tax delinquent, they're probably like open arms to you guys, like that you have a solution for them.
Yeah, it was the same way because they were very unsure on what they wanted to do. The individual that was there, it was a kind of a weird deal because the title was showing up under the grandmother's name and she's been deceased for a while. And then the heir, inherited? What's that?
Was it inherited also?
So yeah, it was an inherited property. So the father gave the property to the daughter who we've been talking to, and he passed. So there was a lot of moving parts that she didn't know. The property was still under the grandmother's name, so we needed to get death certificates to show that she was passed and to do a proper quitclaim deed to get her on title. And we just had to walk her through. She wanted to keep the property. So it was somewhat of we did have to negotiate with her. She had no means of coming up with, I believe the taxes were close to like $5,200. She was on a fixed income. There was probably about $22,000 in rehab that she didn't have. And it wasn't just like cosmetic. It needed a new roof. It couldn't go another winter in Indiana, or else there would have been tons of leaks. Then it would have turned in probably to a $40,000 job. Mm. So she had no idea what to do. And she just needed some moving expense money, but that wasn't the thing. We just kind of needed to hear what her problems were, and right. We needed to become, problem solvers.
Right. That's where I'm
provide solutions.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with this. Is like, how did you get that seller in that distressed situation? How did you get that communication to work to where she would acknowledge she needed to sell?
Well, there was a few things too that we also provided for her. She had no idea where she wanted to go. She had to know where, like, from a place of moving. She didn't have any place lined up. So we, being the company that we are, we have resources to where we could reach out to other investors that may have properties that she could go in, and she could be in a lease with an option, or if she wants to rent, she could rent. So we found her 10 properties that she could look at and she could move into, and we would help her out with the moving expenses because she was a older woman. She didn't have the money for moving expenses, and she had some heavy furniture. So, that was one of the things that we told her we could solve, is we could help her with moving.
Yeah, so that's my whole point right there. So a lot of times I try to explain to people, like, look, sometimes get off of negotiating price and start identifying the solution that they really need, right? Yeah. Like, stop talking about the price. Start figuring out, why would they not sell? Maybe it's because, like what you just said, they didn't know where they were going to go. How were they going to do it? How was they going to move? So all of that, which might be small to us as investors, is huge to them. Yeah. And so great job, man. Like, really figuring out, like, okay, like, what is it that is holding you back from selling this property? And so you reached out to your network. That was awesome.
Yeah, we did. And it doesn't take long to reach out to some folks, and she had no idea how to really do it. She didn't want to go to an apartment, and that's all she really knew. She was finding apartments that she could move into, but she wanted to move into a home because that's what she liked. She liked living in a home. So we wanted to find her a house that she could live in, and that's what she wanted. And the other thing too is she had bad credit. So she wanted to, get a car down the road because her car probably wasn't going to last that long. So we hooked her up with one of our guys. We took care of the expense to get her credit repair. So she was loving us right from the get-go because we were providing solutions to 100%. Some major problems.
100%. I think the biggest takeaway for everybody who's listening to this right now isn't that you negotiated a deal that you made a bunch of money on, but you actually came in and into this deal more as a problem solver, a solutions provider, and that's how you won the deal.
Yeah. Yeah,
I went through it. So you're telling this story, and I'm flashing back to a deal I did, which was not a tax delinquent, but it was a subject to. It was an inherited probate foreclosure. Well, it was already out of probate, so it was inherited, but it was in pre-foreclosure, and it was a hoarder house.
Yeah,
with all three of them, right? And the girl that inherited the property, she didn't know what to do with this thing. I mean, it was trashed. And she grew up in this house. Her parents had passed. She was only like 20-something years old, and she'd been very sheltered. She'd never had a job. So it wasn't the house. It was going out into the world that she was afraid of.
Yeah. That happens.
Yeah, man. And so when we talked to her and we really got to figure out what it was she didn't know how to start on the real world. So I told her, I said, look, I will pay 6 months for an apartment for you. We'll bring a moving company over here. We'll move you into the apartment, and you'll have 6 months, to get on your feet and get going. And that's what helped me close that deal. Similar to what you just did.
You got to do creative things. And it's not like, and I was going to say creative, it's not so much being creative, right? It's being a listener and really figuring out what you can do as far as being a problem solver. Because the other thing that we were able to do and hammer home, because she thought, she could stay there. She thought she could stay there, and she thought maybe she could borrow the money somehow. Yeah. And I told her this. I'm like, hey, what if I gave you a $25,000 Home Depot gift card? What would you do with that to the house? And she started telling me everything that she would do to the house. And she didn't even pick out like, hey, I'm going to do all these fancy things to the house. These were like legit things like plumbing, electrical.
I love that.
All of this stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, so now that we've identified all the stuff that you would like to do.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Like, that's a big, like, aha, if you're watching this. That's pretty, I like that, Jason.
I'm telling you, once she started rattling the things off, because I was writing the things down. I'm like, do you mind if I just write it down? And I showed her, I'm like, so these are all the things that you want to get done to the property. I'm like, do you have the funds available for this and for the back taxes? And she was like, no, I don't. I'm like, this is what's going to potentially happen though if the house goes another winter with this roof. This is what's going to increase it. You're going to need another gift card for about another $10,000 to $15,000. And she just understood she wasn't going to have the money. She just wasn't. She wasn't going to be able to get a line of credit due to her credit. Her credit was in the low 500s. She wasn't going to get a line of credit. Nobody in her family had the money that she could be borrowed. So we ended up getting that deal under contract because we became problem solvers. And yes, there were other people that were contacting her, but we were doing things for her that made her feel like we were almost like family.
Right.
We were looking out for almost like
you were coming in, asking her questions about after the deal. And I think that's what people need to understand. So many people are just in the deal, right? But you need to be talking to them after the deal too, right? It's like, okay, yeah, here's the deal. Here's where we want to be. But what do you need after that? Like, how can I help you after that? And I think that's the key point that you just said. You become an ally to them. You become a friend. You become like family because no one else is talking to them about after the deal, right? Yeah. Like, well, what do I do once you take the house? That's in their mind.
Exactly.
So, great job, man. That was good information, actually. I love the gift card idea.
Yeah, that was a good one.
What better way to get them to acknowledge what's wrong with the property?
Man, I'll tell you what, that works a lot too from a virtual standpoint. If we're talking to somebody on the phone and we're like, hey, can you walk us through the property? Like, imagine I just gave you a $25,000 gift card to Home Depot. What would you do? Like, kind of walk me through the house. That helps out too for folks that are like, well, how can I do that virtually? Well, you can do it just like how I said it.
I love it. It's ingenious. I've never thought about that, and I love it. I will add that to my arsenal of negotiation.
Nice.
So tell me something that went absolutely right with that deal. Like, you were like, man, that was spot on. We need to do that every single time.
She brought the deal to her attorney, and the attorney was like, hey, I think this is a great deal. You should take it. And we normally never have attorneys that smooth say, hey, this is a great deal. You should take it. They always try and finagle little things here and there. Yeah. But we were paying closing costs. We were, she was getting great cash. We were paying the delinquent property taxes. She was literally coming to the table, getting money, wasn't having to pay for anything. And the attorney loved it. The attorney loved it so much that he was like, hey, I would like to be doing business with you guys.
There you go, man. That's a referral. All right, man. So like I like the whole attorney thing. Like, you can't beat that, brother. I mean, that's some good credibility right there. But tell me something that absolutely went wrong. Like, you were like, man, we can never do that again.
With that particular property, we had one of our buyers that we haven't worked with before. We found this buyer in California, and they went around our back. They circumvented us and run around and said, hey, I can give you this. Just don't worry about, that other company. And thankfully, due to us building such great rapport with the homeowner, she called us and said, hey, this person is calling me and saying, you're doing this with the transaction. You're wholesaling it to them for all this extra money. So we had to diffuse that situation right off the bat. And that buyer, needless to say, we're obviously not doing business with them anymore because they did that. But we had to diffuse the situation and let her know what we were doing. And I'm always transparent with our folks. It says in our contract that we're doing a wholesale, that we plan to resell the property instantly not instantly, but simultaneous with a profit. So it's all fully disclosed in our contracts. But she was a little upset how much we were making, and I just reminded her of everything that we're doing and that nobody else has come forth and offered to do any of that for her. And she was, again, she came back down. She was a little heated. She came back down and she was fine. And when we sent that property out, we had multiple buyers to begin with. So we just said, hey, this buyer is no longer in the mix. Are you still interested? So we still had, 2 buyers come in at full ask. Yeah. And it ended up going. But, I just can't stand folks. That's why I vet people out pretty hard. And this person came forward, said, hey, I want to buy it. And it just turned out to be, a shady individual that wanted to circumvent us to try and, save.
And I don't understand why people would do that. Here's the thing. I've been fortunate. 16 years I've been in this business, man. And, I hear stories like that, but I've never had it happen to me.
It's only happened twice since 2008. Twice.
Yep. It makes no sense. It blows my mind, man.
All right. Well, all over it was like pennies in the grand scheme of things compared to
and they lost a relationship too.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They were like, all right, well, we'll just cut these guys out to make an extra $3, $4, $5, $6 grand. And instead of looking at it from a relationship point of view and saying, hey, look, this could be a good lead source for us that we could probably get 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10 deals a year off of. People just, they trip over dollars to pick up pennies. So, all right, Jason, tell me, give me 3 of your best marketing sources right now. What are you using to get? I know you said tax delinquent, so that's probably obviously on the top of your list. But what are 2 other ones right now that you say, hey, this is working for us?
So we are going after. We're also going after folks that have violations against their properties. So either
code violations,
and also a vacancy notification. So we're going after those. So that could actually be 2 in itself, but what we do is we stack them, right? So we want to make sure that they have multiple areas of potential motivation. So we list stack them, and what we're doing is we're taking a list that's right around 5,000, and once we stack it, and we put in all the zip codes that we want, we get a nice quality list around 1,000.
Right.
It saves us
super manageable.
Yes, and the response rate's higher, so we're getting higher response rates. Yep.
Yeah, I just did a 3-day boot camp and I was talking about this. Guys, it absolutely makes no sense to mail 8,000 people. Yeah, your ego makes you feel good about it. Oh, look at me, I mailed 8,000 people. I'm like, but here's the reality. If you stack that with multiple pain, and let's say that 8,000 now turns to 1,000, that 1,000-person list, you can now mail multiple times, get higher results. And the truth be told, Jason, those 1,000 people are the same 1,000 you're looking for in the 8,000.
I know, exactly.
It's just you're mailing 8,000 to try to find those 1,000, right? Yep. Instead, just get down to them. So I like that.
What's the third one? The third one would be probates.
We're still doing probates.
Yeah, we're still doing probates, and also we're finding folks that don't go through the probate. So we're also talking to folks at assisted living facilities that handle, the particular estates for people. They deal with elder care. So we're dealing with folks before they pass on. We could help them out with their expenditures at the assisted living facilities. So we're attacking in a couple different ways. Talking to the executors after somebody has unfortunately passed, and talking to somebody before they pass, because some folks, they don't realize what they have. And, if we could come in, help them out, maybe they could do one last big family vacation. We've had so many people say, hey, you helped us out. We were able to do this with our family, and it was because you were able to help us out. And then they had funds for, the assisted living, because that could get very costly.
Yeah.
So those are ones that we really enjoy because we're able to help folks out.
So I played in the probate world for a while, and then I ended up migrating over to the inherited side of the list. Yes. You know, where you're coming at it before they inherit it. We started marketing to it just after the probate model was over. We just felt like that at that point somebody could actually say yes or no, which in probate you kind of got to go through the whole process and get the heirs, and you're almost waiting on an assignment of heirs, so then you can actually get a true yes unless the court say yes to the sale. So we kind of moved through the probate, and then we just moved over to the inherited side. What we did find out though on the inherited side is it is a much smaller list. I mean,
it is
a much smaller list. Because so much of it gets sold through probate a lot of times.
It does. Not a lot of folks set up through a trust, which we do. And that completely avoids the probate process. At least in Indiana and some of the other states that we do business in. But a lot of folks just don't have that properly set up.
They don't, and some of them don't even know about it.
Exactly.
Honestly. They think you put an LLC. Nope.
Right.
All right, man. So how long did it take you to do that deal when you did it? From the time you had the first conversation with that seller until the time you sold that contract, what was that time frame like?
I believe it was like between 25 and 27 days from start to finish.
Wow, that's good, especially dealing with all those things, man.
It happened pretty quickly. The phone rang off the hook, and we talked to quite a few people, and she was really, really motivated to talk to us.
So what was at the end of it all? Within 30 days, you made a check. What kind of check did you make on this thing?
It wasn't like an even check because we helped her out with some of the stuff. I believe it was like a little less than $25,000.
Wow.
I think it was like $24,449 and 51 cents, I believe.
Not bad getting paid $1,000 a day.
No, it was not bad at all. No. Yeah, $24,449 and 51 cents on that one. Yeah,
that's called that. People say, well, why do you charge so much? Well, I have specialized knowledge. With this specialized knowledge, I will find you.
Yeah, exactly. Nice.
So all right. So talk to me about what's your goals for next year. Like, we're coming around the corner. Like, here we are. We're in the 2020 era. What are your goals? Like, what are you going to do this year?
For 2020, man, just to continue to go on the path we're on, scaling and building as we're going, and just still making sure like the team still has their freedom that they want, because they got into this business also too for the same reasons that I got into this business. And it's all about having the freedom that we got into this business for. So continue to scale, and also too we're a lot of our investors are forcing us to move more into commercial. So apartments, self-storages, we're wanting to move more into that space as well. So, there's a lot of stuff, especially in Indiana and some of the other Midwest states that we're going into, that we're already, finding some really great opportunities. And that's ultimately where we want to go. More having cash flow coming in, continue to do our wholesaling, but we love having good, solid cash flowing assets in the business.
I love it, man. I mean, you said some very powerful things today. I love the $25,000 gift card idea.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
That was a golden egg right there, brother. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, I hear a lot of stuff, you know what I mean? But I have never heard that one.
Hopefully everybody can use that one, man.
I'm sure if they would do it, I could see the power of it. You said something else earlier too that I really appreciated. You said, don't beat on myself. Like, don't get down on me. Like, just remember, it's all a journey. Like, some start new, some start with 2 deals a year, some start with 100 deals. Like, just don't. I say this too, and it sounds like that might be where you were going with that statement there's no need to compare yourself with somebody who's been doing it 5 years longer than than you, right?
Yeah.
Just use that and their story and their message for motivation. Like, look where they are. I could be there too if I put the time in, right?
Yeah.
If I put the time in. So, all right, tell me this. What's your best advice for a new investor right now?
I would just stay, stick with following up with people, and just time blocking, in all honesty. But the biggest challenge for me when I got out of the corporate world, because everything was such a regimen, I got out and I was completely lost. So I started monitoring my every hour of the day. And I know that sounds crazy, but after I started really making good habits, it became evident that I needed to have a proper time block in place. So I've got it on my phone. I've got things going off, alarms going off of what I need to do, because as entrepreneurs, a lot of us, we stay unfocused quite a bit. So we need.
Man, I got it too, brother.
I
use it. Time blocking.
Exactly. Number one thing, time blocking. The follow up, the consistency, that will all be in the time blocking. So
I learned that from Brian Tracy.
Oh, okay, cool.
Way back in the day, I had his cassette tapes, and he talked a lot about time blocking and setting up. He referred to it as large, uninterrupted time spots. So that you could just move away the directions and focus on what you want to do. So
absolutely.
I love that. That's great advice, man. All right, man. Here we are at the end. So guys, listen, I got some fire questions for you. Like we call them our hot fire questions. But listen, before you do that, guys, I know Jason talked about tax delinquent. We did an amazing training with him and his partner. You're going to find a link in the description here. Go watch it. I interview them, how they're doing it, what they're doing. I know we don't have a lot of time on this, but in that, we're on there digging deep into how they're using tax delinquent lead structure to find some of the best deals. I mean, when I was doing this interview on this training, I was blown away. I was just like, oh my gosh, like I'm missing the boat here. So, guys, you're going to find that in the description. Just click on that link, go over and enjoy that training. So, Jason, you ready?
Yeah, fire
questions. Question number 1. What's your best vacation place you ever been?
Ooh, Bora Bora.
Bora Bora, man.
Yeah, it was our 10-year anniversary.
Do you have to wear like the big sombrero hats like me?
No, I don't think so.
Man, my head gets so burned, man.
Oh, I always do have to wear a hat though when we go to like places like that. It's so close to the equator. I'm putting on SPF 100.
Man,
I remember one time, real quick though, one time our 1-year anniversary, we went to Hawaii and I didn't put stuff on.
Yeah.
When I got back home to the hotel room, there was like, I put my hand over there, it was like chunks of scabs and stuff. I'm like, and that was like my first year, like going like bald.
Well, and then you have dandruff for like 2 weeks because it's your skin's pillow. Anyways, I know people don't want to hear about that. All right, let's keep going. That's the bald man, conversation. All right, what was your first automobile?
It was a 2-door Honda Accord. It was a manual.
Oh, there you go. What's your favorite season or holiday?
Oh man, that's a tough one. Number 1 for sure, summer, but I do love fall.
Yeah, fall's kind of mine too. All right, tell me, what's the best podcast that you've been listening to lately? Whether it's business, personal development, whatever it is. What do you think? Man,
it's got to be Coffee with Closers.
Nah, don't say that, man. You got a podcast too, though. What's your podcast?
It's called the No Flipping Excuses Show.
The No Flipping Excuses Show. No flipping excuse. So outside of my podcast and your podcast, what's one that you've gotten a lot of value out of?
You know what, man? I really, I'll watch every once in a while the Joe Rogan podcast.
That is a good one. Gets a little deep. It does. It gets a little deep. But yeah, I'm with you, man. All right, what's your favorite food, man?
Oh man, I'm Italian, so it's yeah. I love pizza, lasagnas, that type of stuff.
All the stuff we're not supposed to eat,
Exactly.
Right. Are you a early to rise or are you a sleep in?
right now, early to rise.
Yeah, you got kids, right?
I got to get the kids ready, so I don't have any other choice.
There's no choice, man. It's just like, so now it's like when I have kids too, I know they're up at 5:30. Like they're up. It's no longer, for me now, it's like, I'm not looking and going, oh, it's 10, it's 11. I'm counting how many hours I have left to sleep.
I know.
It's like, okay, I got 7.5 hours to sleep. Okay, now I got 6.5 hours to sleep. Now I got 5.5 hours.
No, that's how it was for me last night because my wife wasn't feeling good. And I'm like, oh man, I got to get to bed here soon. I'm only going to have like 5 hours of sleep.
Right. All right, man. Favorite book? What's one of the favorite books you've read?
Ooh, goodness. That's a tough one. That is a real tough one. You know what? Let me see.
Pull up on one you've been listening to.
Yeah, let me tell you. I got one right here. Ooh, this is a good one. Never Split the Difference.
Oh, love that book. Yeah, love that book. Yep.
And Can't Hurt Me.
Oh, I was just talking to somebody about this guy yesterday. Guy, you know his story. Well, if you listen to his book, you know his story.
Yeah.
Like all he went through as a child, his father was.
Yes.
That guy's, man. Whew. What about the guy that said he wanted to come live with him for a month? Did you hear about that?
Oh, yeah. By Jesse Itzler, 31, Living with Seal.
Yes. Said, hey, come live with me for a month. He was like, man, if anybody's crazy enough to want me to come live with them, I'm going to do it.
Dude, those are great books. David Goggins is great. I love seeing his stuff. He's extremely, I'm not into all the Tony Robbins stuff, but I do like that stuff. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But Goggins can get you motivated.
Oh, I always tell people, look, books are great, but once you find like a writer or a segment inside the book world that fits your personality, like it changes the way you start to get engaged with them. So,
right.
And that was big for me because I'm not a big reader, but man, I love this Audible app.
Yes.
I can download these books and put them on like 1.5, 1.7 speed.
Yes.
And I could burn through a book, man. I'm like, woo, that was a good book.
Oh yeah, man. I don't do the whole sitting and reading thing.
I fall asleep.
Me too.
And sometimes I fall asleep while I'm reading it, and then I wake up on page 19 and I'm like, what did I just read? But that's my ADD kicking in,
Yeah,
so,
I agree.
Right, final question. What's your favorite movie of all time?
Ooh, oh man, these are tough. Favorite movie of all time? It would have to be probably, this is probably going to come back. I grew up with
man.
I grew up with my dad loving the martial arts, so I'd probably have to say Bloodsport.
Bloodsport! Tung Po!
Bloodsport, man.
Watching all those, man. Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. My dad, I remember taking us first grade, second grade to see all these R-rated movies.
I grew up watching them too, man.
Yeah.
I know them all. Kumite!
Yeah, the Kumite!
All right, man. This has been great, man. I appreciate you coming on and being open about your deal and where you found the leads and how you negotiated it. That's the kind of stuff people want to hear, man. And there again, like I said, everybody's watching this. We actually did a very in-depth training on these tax delinquent leads with Jason and his partner, Jason also. So it's going to be in the description. Click on that. Go enjoy that. Also, if you ever digging around on podcasts and you want to follow Jason, it is, tell him again, Jason.
The No Flipping Excuses Show, and Zack has been on the show, so you'll enjoy that show too.
Boom, boom, boom. But Jason didn't interview me though.
Well, hey, we're going to have you back on. I was under the weather that day. Thanks, Zack.
Let me just stick that in there right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, guys, look, it's Zack Childress here. Thanks again for being on another Coffee with Closers show. And until the next one, just remember, go be a closer. See ya.
Thanks, Zack.